Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is quite literally a rock star. She is the national account coordinator. I can say words from Peerless Umbrella. Charity Gibson, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so much fun to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump right into this rock star status that you have just currently. And I mean, as always, of course, but I want to start with congratulations because you were recently named #1 on Dale Denim's Online 18. So congrats.
Thank you very much. I was a little sad that I wasn't #2 and Nick was #1 again. I appreciate being #1, but we just had so much fun with that the whole year, that his Monday thing and my Tuesday thing. And so,
well, for those, for those who don't know, the Online 18, Dale Denim puts together a list of the top 18 online influencers in the promotional products industry. Charity's been on that list for many years, but you were #1 this year. So I'm curious about, as just being a part of that tribe, what does sort of being #1, what does that mean to you?
Okay, so a lot of people would think that it's like a super great thing, and it is. I am super stoked to be #1. But all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. All my hard work is paying off. And then it sets in okay, well, you're everywhere. One, now you have to keep being everywhere. Yes. Two, how do you, how do you top the fact that you were everywhere last year and then keep it up again? Because it's the only place to go is down unless you stay up. And how long can I ride the #1 train?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, I know that sometimes I get sick of hearing the sound of my own voice or seeing my name in all these articles. And I'm like, I hope that the world is not as sick of me as I feel like they are. So if you are sick of me, I'm sorry. And if you're not sick of me, then thank you. And even if you are and you still put up with me, even bigger thanks, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it because it seems to be working. But please know that I hate hearing my name sometimes. It's like Charity Gibson again got tagged. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to hate me. I feel so sad.
I think that is a totally natural reaction. And I think Bill Petrie and I have this conversation all the time. Actually, you and I might have at some point, but I think that is a conversation that goes on in our head way much more than it does in reality. I always say that you'd worry less about what people thought of you if you realized how little they did. They're going on with their stuff, right? Until they, they kind of come across you. And, the other piece I always say is when I go to a talk show that's hosted by a certain person and they're not there, I'm annoyed. That's why I went, right? So I would say keep up the good work and ignore that voice in your head. So
thank you. Yeah, that inner critic, sometimes it just gets so strong. Tough. Luckily, most of the time it's yay, cheerleader and helpful and everything. And I can usually keep a pretty good lead on it. But sometimes, man, it's just oh. So I appreciate those comments for sure.
Well, I want to move on because you've recently, when I say you've jumped on the Clubhouse train, I actually think you may be the conductor right now, at least in our industry. And so, everybody seems to be asking if it's worth it or if you can get a return. I think I know what you're going to say, but what do you say to that idea that is Clubhouse worth it to be on?
So, of course, you know that I'm going to say yes, but I'm not going to say yes forever. There's a couple things. Brief history. So for people that don't know, Clubhouse is an audio-only platform, right? So the thing I love about it, I think most people love about it, you don't have to get your hair and your makeup done. You literally plug in your phone, go in a room, and you can be there for hours. And obviously the quality of the rooms are dependent on the quality of the people that you follow. So just housekeeping technicalities, when you follow somebody, it fills your hallway when they start a room. Okay. So everybody that you follow, their little active rooms, you're like, oh, Kirby's in this room, Charity's in that room, I can go hang out with this person in that room, or this person speaking. My favorite thing about it is that I'm following a lot of entrepreneurs, marketers, master speakers, and I want to be on a stage one day with these people, and my idols are living in these rooms, giving away all of these secrets and knowledge and wisdom that they charge $10,000 an hour for. And if you raise your hand and get put on stage, you can ask a question of that person right there.
Mm.
Like, so it's the Grant Cardones of the world and the Jess Ekstroms and the Brian Fanzos. There's a really cool mod. His name is Chris Delaney, and he has a DJ that comes up. So when they reset the rooms, which means they just kind of like get everybody back to center and then start talking again, he has a DJ that plays songs and everybody taps their mics and we're all dancing. That's so fun. That to me is the magic of Clubhouse right now. But people get upset, right? They're saying, I wish there was an Android component. Why do you have to have an invite? And the reason is 9-person dev team. So you're a 9-person startup. So they're bootstrapped. Well, they were bootstrapping. Now they have like $1 billion valuation or something ridiculous, right? The other part is they're Apple users. And so they are using the technology that's native to them.
Right.
The third thing is they are developing in a scalable way. So while we all want access, it's not like they're being super exclusive. It's like, hey, our servers can't handle this much noise. Right. So we're not going to disappoint people. We're going to keep it small and manageable and kind of inch out as it makes sense. And it's frustrating to people, but gosh, if more companies did that, we would be so much less frustrated with some of our experiences. Like we feel like we're insignificant because somebody says we're opening a new restaurant and 1 million people are in line and then the food starts to suck and the service sucks because they can't handle it. So I think the way that they're opening it up is really smart. And then the second part is that I'm not like 0.9 now, but the idea that it's only for Apple users. And I think it's so funny to me how people are letting this little teeny tiny hill be a mountain for them. I'm an Android girl. It's like, I don't have an iPhone. Guess what? For the $100 it would take to get an iPhone that's used, whatever that, as long as it can connect to the internet or an old iPad, whatever it is, for that small investment, putting it on Wi-Fi to be here while these people are dropping not even knowledge bombs. It's like knowledge atomic bombs. I have 2 full notebooks scribbled. I can't even keep up sometimes taking notes. I'm emailing myself every time I'm on Clubhouse. I have over 300 emails to myself in 3 weeks of all of these things. So that to me is like, there's gold there now, but give it 45 days. Android will be available. It's open to the entire world. And all of a sudden, these beautiful, small, intimate rooms of like your favorite artist giving you a private concert in your living room is like everybody fighting for space. And there's so much noise, it's not even worth it. So Clubhouse, I think, has, at least for me, I see it as having a lifespan, especially because marketers ruin everything. And they're going to get on and be like, buy this, spam this, pay for this. Then it's over.
Well, I think your insight is really good. And I think the interesting thing, the way you're answering the question is interesting to me, is that when people say, is there a return on investment? I think they are looking to sell. And I think you're saying, if I'm going to put words in your mouth and you tell me if I'm right, you're saying, yes, there's a return on the investment because of what I can learn. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And plus talk about return on investment. If I hadn't borrowed my daughter's iPhone, the only reason I'm actually on Clubhouse, I didn't have to pay any money. I have to keep up her terrarium app and not kill her plants. So that was my payment for being able to use her second phone that she earned. So, but yeah, it was $100. If it was $1,000, it's like a TED talk all day, every day. So yeah, if you're going there for that and that's the thing, cool. And then for distributors or people in the industry, the people on this event marketers, human resources people. We were in a room the other day with the director of global marketing for Netflix, talking one-on-one with her, and she's asking us for help and assistance on building her virtual events and what type of products that she could use that would have some sort of a return, because there's a lot of liability with unused products, shipping, all this, whatever. She's coming to us and saying, how do I do it? And so it relies on people in our industry having the foresight and the skills and the desire to go in and lead with service and sharing wisdom and educating, going in as an educator. And the happy byproduct of that, I think, has always been, at least in my way, is that people get to know you, you build your brand, they know, like, and trust you. And then when they need you, they're like, Charity, that she was that girl that did that thing with the umbrellas or whatever. And then it's like, Charity, do you know a girl, like, is this you? And it's like, yeah, it's me. Or no, I can't, but guess what? I know a guy named Kirby, and Kirby can. And so there's like this reciprocity that happens, from being willing to lead with service instead of the sale.
I love it. I love it. So final question for you, just sort of speaking of jumping on to new things, when it comes to new apps and platforms, why do you think it makes sense to be early, as you obviously are in Clubhouse?
Access. When you're actually on Clubhouse, this is exactly what they say. When you're an early adopter and you jump onto some of these platforms, sometimes it's frustrating because things are clunky and they haven't worked out yet. But the idea that you get to provide that feedback, so you become part of their story in a sense, and part of the process of what makes it such a great thing. Like, you get to kind of have that sense of ownership in it. But the biggest thing is access, to be able to get on a stage and ask questions to Cameron Harold, like he's like, we're on the phone, whatever. And actually a lot of these people, these massive entrepreneurs, I have their phone numbers. We have Zoom calls. I've booked speaking gigs. I'm talking to people that are bazillionaires, and they're coming to me asking me for my advice. I really want to connect with you after this. Can we call? Actually, I was just on Lou Diamond's Thrive podcast. I had the opportunity to come on his podcast with him. So access, and I think just really authentic, genuine conversation I think that's the best part of jumping on this technology. Just checking it out, seeing if it's worth it. You can jump off the train anytime you want. So I don't think there's any harm or foul, as long as the technology has decent privacy concerns and no malware. So be careful there. But otherwise,
And I think that what you hear Gary Vee talk about this all the time too. And I think that a lot of times that you'll jump onto a platform and maybe it doesn't last, but some of the skills that you gain while using that are transferable to the next thing too. And so, usually there's something to be learned one way or another. So
absolutely. And Clubhouse, the cool thing too, is that they don't have like a direct message opportunity right now. Mm-hmm. So when you're on a stage speaking, like, your Twitter and your Instagram become the mode of communication. Mm-hmm. So a happy byproduct, my Instagram following has grown on my public Instagram by like 350, 400 followers from the 3 or 4 times I've been on a stage as a moderator or a speaker. And now those, again, even if Clubhouse died tomorrow, all of those relationships are going to continue on. So I 100% think there's continuity.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, thank you, dear. You have answered my 3 questions. I give everybody a chance to ask me one question. Do you have one for me?
I do. So in a recent magazine article, I read the headline that said 2020 was the year we all lost. And I know I personally don't feel that it was a lost year. I feel like 2020 taught me so much and took some of my relationships to the next level. And I was forced to not just do the same things we do differently, but actually do different things. Right. And so my question for you, having said all of that, barring the loss and the sickness and all of the crappy stuff that happened because of it, what is one thing that 2020 gave to you that you never want to lose?
Okay, that's a great question. What is one thing that it gave to me that I never want to lose? Okay, so I think I do want to give a caveat. Like, so for me, I agree with you, right? I'm with you in the sense that it completely forced me, and I think our organization, to look at what we did differently, and like you said, do different things. I think my daughter, it was a lost year for her, right? She's a performer and a singer on cruise ships.
Yeah.
Gone, right? Like, it's so, right. So for her, then I think, and I think that there are that, but I would say there's a couple things, but the one that pops into my head is I think that it gave me a renewed sense of pride in what our industry is about. Number one, I saw the supply chain just absolutely kind of spin on a dime so that we could start doing PPE. We utilized the supply chains that were in place to provide things that we as a culture, as a country, needed, whether it was hand sanitizer or masks or whatever. And then I think it also showed me, and not me, I think it showed our country the power of using branded merchandise to recognize and to appreciate. And I mean, you started seeing it everywhere. You and I were on a call earlier today talking about that video that Snugs did with the Common SKU team about the power of branded merchandise. I think it gave me a light, sort of a lit a fire that probably needed rekindled a little bit. just because I think we all need that occasionally. And that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing was really, it just was like, okay, if we are creating content, we are creating branded merchandise, and we create those things in the service of others, good things happen. I was really cognizant that I didn't want to be the person on the phone, hey, I've got masks. Hey, I've got this, I don't want to be that guy, but I wanted to be able to create content and sort of thoughts for my customers, for my prospects that said, look, if you are struggling with these things, here are some ideas. Some of that we sold and some we didn't, kind of like your idea of connecting, like, hey, we don't do this, but you ought to consider doing this if you're trying to open up safely. And so sort of those two things, it rekindled my kind of love and passion for the industry. And I think it made me double down on the idea of giving first in content. So those are, you asked for one, I gave you two.
That's okay. It's something that we both share. We're asked for a little and we give a lot.
That's right. Well, cool.
We're givers.
That's right. And talkers, right? Oh man. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you always give so much when you're on the show. So thank you so much for doing it. We'll have to do it again. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. And just for the way that you serve the industry, I think you help to keep a lot of us connected. I know, obviously, you mentioned the Snugs video. And one of the things that I remember very distinctly, Bobby Lee, whose quote was that it took away our ability to connect with people. And so sometimes that tangible product is the only quote unquote human connection. But I think exactly this too, in addition to the tangible products, just hearing genuine people talk about things that are relevant to us and just being honest and transparent. So thanks for all you do in the industry and all you do to keep us connected and just share different people's stories and all that cool stuff. So I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, cool. Thanks again, Charity. That will wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.